Superman is one of the greatest heroes of all time, and with James Gunn's Superman coming out, I thought it'd be kind of fun to look back at how other iterations of Superman compared to his comic book counterpart. I wanted to start with Zack Snyder's Man of Steel because that one was the most recent Superman iteration before James Gunn's version. But how does Snyder's Man of Steel compare to the big blue Boy Scout that we get in the comics? Well, let's take a look. Kicking us off with our origin story, we see that while both share a similar premise, Man of Steel delves a little bit deeper into the Kryptonian society and Kal-El's journey of self-discovery, showing him more as an outcast before fully embracing his heritage. However, comic book origin stories such as the 1986 Man of Steel series have depicted different details like Superman's status as the sole survivor of Krypton or his connection with Earth. We see that Cavill Superman struggles with his place in the world. He's not just automatically confident. He grows into the hero that we all know by the end of the film, but he's definitely a man burdened by power, responsibility, and uncertainty in where his role lies among mortals. The mortals see him more as a god. In the comics, Superman's moral compass is steady. He's often described as a Boy Scout, always doing the right thing. The ultimate optimist, having learned his Kryptonian heritage and place in the world while in Smallville and operating as Superman. This moral compass is something that was given to him by the Kents. Now in the film, the Kents play a more pivotal role as far as his untrust of humanity, mostly what he received from Jonathan Kent. So in the movie, Jonathan teaches Clark to hide his powers for his own safety. He plays a more cautious role and even scared that if someone found out, they would take Clark from the Kents, which is a plausible, scary notion, having adopted and raised a child that has abilities that the government will come and take them. And his views on the world are somewhat untrusting in a point of view of a concerned parent. Whereas in the comics, Jonathan Paul Kent and Martha Ma Kent are seen more as a moral rock and a warm guidance that keeps Superman grounded alongside Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. They see him more as a traditional hero where his mission is to protect Earth and to protect the foundation of what builds inspiration and hope throughout the world. More or less in the film, when Superman starts his heroics, his suit is already made, ready to go by his Kryptonian ship. His ship makes his costume for him. It was something that was already pre-planned for him through the intelligence of the Fortress of Solitude. So in the film, the suit was given a more modern aesthetic sensibility. It gave more of a darker tone to his brighter comic book counterpart. This was the first film to feature Superman without his iconic red trunks. Whereas in the comics, we got a version of that in the New 52, but with modern comics now, with the DC universe and everything, and even the past with pre-crisis, post-crisis. Superman is always seen with his red trunks, and in the comics some iterations explain that the costume with the vibrant colors and the red trunks were created by Martha Kent. And actually in the modern iterations of comics following the Infinity Crisis, Martha created the suit using Kryptonian fabric found in his ship, and that was actually an interesting notion as to why the suit generally doesn't get destroyed in battle. The only time it really did was during his fight with Doomsday. As for powers and abilities, it seems that Clark still had the same abilities that he had within the comic books, something that wasn't notably different. Now, the pre-crisis or the Golden Age Superman had different abilities that were just kind of pulled out of the air by most writers, like the ability to change colors of suits and just reading super fast, like stuff like that was just for plot device that generally came back in little notions like he reads faster than the average human, which is kind of something modern now. But Man of Steel in the comics carry the same traditional powers that we all know associated with Superman: flight, super strength, heat vision, ice breath, like these kind of notions that carried over from the comics to the film, which is actually kind of interesting. The main thing between the comics and the film is the tone. The tone is more of in Zack Snyder's version of Man of Steel onward for the rest of the DCEU, is more of a grounded in reality sense of approach. We saw this with the government and the fear of Superman through the government, which led to Amanda Waller using the Suicide Squad to eventually say, what if Superman had a bad day? We have, these group of villains that could take care of him, which is a more realistic aspect than just having a group of people with all good intents become the Justice Society or the Justice League. However, the original take was that's why the Suicide Squad existed. Everything existed because of Superman's appearance. We got Batman, coming to Metropolis and challenging Superman because he feared Superman. This was something that we saw with Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor felt like Superman was a threat and created Doomsday because of it. So even though it was a darker take, Superman did, push forward a lot of metahumans into the forefront with, again, the Suicide Squad and the eventual Justice League and Lex Luthor's obsessions with metahuman. One thing you could say is that Man of Steel gave us a Superman that was more grounded and complex. He's thoughtful, he's an alien, and he's powerful, but also uncertain and burdened with the power of not only a god, but also burdened with responsibility of needing to be a hero. What does it mean to be a hero? And that's something that Zack Snyder's approach on Superman was. Now, even though while in the comics Superman is more than that, he is a source of comfort, a light in the dark, and more of a beacon of hope, where it shows you don't have to lose your way. You can be different, you can be a hero. So whether you're a Snyder fan or not, one thing that can be said about Man of Steel is that it's a bold take on the heroes that we all grew up with, given a more modern makeover, and that's probably the biggest win of all. Zack Snyder can actually say, at least I put a stamp on the Superman mythos. His take on Superman was definitely creative and bold, and it did offer a more grounded, mature look at the DC universe that not a lot of writers and artists can say that they've done with Superman. But let me know what you all think in the comments. I know that I kind of rambled on there a little bit, but I just really wanted to get this thought out and try this comic book versus character series just to see how it all fits in. But I do like this concept of actually looking at the characters compared to their comic book counterparts prior to more comic book accuracy, I would say. So I definitely want to look at like X-Men characters and look at pre-MCU characters and pre-DCU characters or DCEU characters if I can help it. But yeah, I've been Andy. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and take care. Bye.